Hey, look, we're on.
Hey, we're back. Well, we never left today. We left last week, week one. Welcome to The Spread, NESN.com's football picks podcast, presented by MyBookie.ag. I'm Mike Cole. That's Ricky Doyle. That's Andre Kachaturian. If you're new to the show, we're going to make football picks. That's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Back here for week two. Week one, I don't know. It was a weird week in the NFL. Overall thoughts, I guess, off the start. Ricky, why don't you kick it off? I'm just going to say that I was kind of underwhelmed. That's what I'll say.
I guess, but I mean, based on what we've seen, particularly early in the year, years past,
that's true.
Relatively speaking, I didn't think it was that bad.
You got to temper expectations.
Exactly. Going into it, week one's always weird, and this. Offenses in particular are generally behind the defense, so it's hard to put too much stock in a lot of what you see in week one. But what I thought was kind of interesting was a few teams that you think of more of a defensive-minded team, I guess you could say, actually looked pretty good offensively. Yeah. Now, whether that's a mirage, we'll see. You're talking about a few teams that I'm sure we'll get into, the Vikings, the Chiefs, teams like that, like I said, more known for the defensive side of the ball. It was relatively impressive. So, and then you get the big performance by the Rams. So, a lot of trying to figure out what's real and what's not going into.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think in terms of excitement the games were as entertaining as I wanted them to.
Right. Yeah.
I'm following Mike Cole's theory of the last year and a half now that the NFL isn't a good product. I'm starting to believe that more and more. I'm sorry, but you know what? Week two is a new week, and let's pop up the week one standings. From the last week, and
I would
Ricky,
love if we did that.
Yeah, we
certainly get that.
10-5 last week, Ricky. Fantastic record. You're in first place, leading the way, defending your title and your crown successfully. Meanwhile, Mike and myself 7-8, which is honestly, it's week one. I'm okay with my record. I'm happy with it. 7-8.
I think last year was a total tire fire in week one.
Week one was I would have to go and look, but I'm pretty sure we certainly, as the year went on, improved.
Yeah.
Because week one's kind of a crapshoot.
It is.
In so many ways.
So that's a good way of minimizing your 10-5 record. But that's
I'm trying to be a nice guy.
Yeah, I guess so. It's modest. Sure.
There's only so many of us out there that can hit the ground running.
So I guess that's, at least for 1 week, a really good way of putting ourselves over, saying that, some pretty good information to be had on this show. So,
yes.
If you're a smart person, you can see right here, presented by MyBookie.ag, mentioned off the top, go over there, sign up. Again, 100% bonus, really. It's free money. It's on the house. You can double up on the house if you use our promo code PTS. That is P
Points.
As in Patriots, T as in
Texans,
and S as in
Snake.
Sure. They'll double you up to $1,000. So go over there, win a bunch of money. Not too much because we're enjoying the partnership, and we'll help you. We'll guide you along the way. As we do here, we'll do the three biggest games of the weekend. We'll do our bet slips. Maybe we'll even find a way to slide in some locks and upsets here and there because apparently that's a little bit more popular than we realized. We did last year, kind of got rid of it, so maybe we'll mention that here and there.
Listen, when the crowd speaks, we listen. So if people want locks and upsets throughout the
we'll
course
just
of the
slip them into that bet slip segment.
Yeah.
We can slide it
Show
in
and
there.
tell as always. Got it all.
Yep.
So now week two, we got information off which to go off of from
Yeah.
week one. I mean, that's when we go back to how difficult week one is. It's because you're judging teams a lot on what they did over the offseason, not so much what they did last year. So now, as we get through here, we'll have a bigger sample size, crunch some numbers and the like. So.
That being said, week two usually a very, very strong overreaction week, so we'll try not to get too carried away. But again, like you said, that's all we have to go off. We'll start Sunday afternoon, 1 p.m. The Philadelphia Eagles coming off a very nice win at Washington last week. They look dominant. I don't know if that says more about the Eagles or the Redskins, but they head to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Chiefs, obviously, people around here know all about what they're capable of after that week one shellacking of the New England Patriots. The Chiefs, as it stands right now on MyBookie.ag, are 5-point favorites. We got the Andy Reid Bowl, too, with Andy Reid taking on his old team and the Eagles. Also, Doug Peterson, coach of the Eagles, was an assistant for Andy Reid. So a lot of interesting storylines here. Ricky, why don't you kick it off?
I'm going to like the Eagles in this one. The Chiefs are 5-point favorites. I like the Eagles. I think I've been higher on the Eagles than probably most people so far, going back to our preview show. And a lot of it stems from I'm a big fan of their run defense. That front seven is pretty legit. I mean, you get the combination of Fletcher Cox and Timmy Jerrigan in the middle. I think they got athletic linebackers. Jordan Hicks is one of the more underrated defensive players in all of football. And as you mentioned, I like what I saw against the Redskins. I don't want to overreact too much. I still think they do have some issues in their secondary, and a lot of what, Kirk Cousins and the Redskins' inability to take advantage of that, I think, was more them trying to get on the same page as well. But I think this is a bad matchup for the Chiefs. I don't think that, I mentioned the teams that are known more for, being a defensive team coming out week one, showing a lot on offense. The Chiefs aren't going to have the feel that they had with the Patriots. I think that the Chiefs' big offensive week one spoke more about the Patriots' defense right now than it did about the Chiefs' offense. I just think that there's so much. I think there's a lot more talent on the Eagles' defense, particularly from a front seven standpoint, to contain that run, which is obviously the bread and butter of the Chiefs. So I like the Eagles. I like the matchup here.
I agree with you. I like the Eagles against the spread. I'm not so sure if I like them in the actual game. But let me tell you something. It's going to be a close game. And when I made these graphics, it's at +4.5. It's shifted to +5. And if it keeps going in that direction, I'll hammer down on the Eagles even more, because let me tell you something. Best player on the Los Angeles Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, everyone's
moving to Los Angeles.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Really.
Everyone's relocating there, so might as well call them the LA Eagles. Best player in the Philadelphia Eagles, Lane Johnson. When he's in the lineup, Carson Wentz has 10 touchdowns, 3 picks, with a 7-1 record. When he's out of the lineup, last year he missed some time, Lane Johnson did. Wentz had 8 touchdowns, 12 picks, with a 3-8 record. Johnson was in there yesterday. Wentz had time to throw. I think Wentz will have time to throw against the Chiefs. Utilize his weapons. Keep this a close one. But then again, I like the Chiefs because they force turnovers. They'll win in the close one late. But I'll take the Eagles with the points against the spread. Why are you laughing?
I love you mentioning that Lane Johnson looked good yesterday, and it's now Wednesday.
Hey, nobody knows we're doing the show on Wednesday.
He's relocating teams. Yeah. He's manipulating days. It's unbelievable.
Sorry.
I'll be the odd man out here. I'm taking the Chiefs. I was really impressed with what I saw from them both offensively and defensively. The Eric Berry injury is going to hurt. That one hurts. Yes. But there's injuries on the other side too. The Eagles lost Ronald Darby for at least he's only got 4 to 6 weeks after his ankle was at a right angle. He broke it. I don't necessarily suggest going to find that clip, but if you're into people breaking bones, it's a good one. Philadelphia offensive tackle Jason Peters got a groin injury. Says he's going to play, but we're all men here. We're a bunch of we're guys. Playing football in the NFL, the groin injury doesn't seem like something I'd be very good at. So, I mean, he's a bigger man, stronger man than me, but that's one thing. That's one spot where you don't want to have issues going into Kansas City is on the defensive line, because the Chiefs can make you pay, especially playing at Arrowhead. I also love the whole Doug Peterson versus Andy Reid thing. I don't think Doug Peterson is a very good coach. The Ringers' Mike Lombardi has really just hammered Peterson for the last 2 years, and I think there's something to it. I mean, Peterson doesn't have a whole ton of experience kind of working his way up the ranks. Andy Reid, one of the better coaches in the NFL, he showed that on Thursday night. He was fantastic against the Patriots. Yeah. I forget Baldinger, the guy at NFL Network, did a couple of great breakdowns of how Andy Reid was able to get Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in space. I think he's going to do the same thing, kind of coach circles around Peterson and the Eagles this weekend. And, everybody talks about Andy Reid, how good he is on coming off a bye, how good he is when he has time to prepare. Well, they've got an extra couple days, to prepare for the Eagles. It's not necessarily a bye, but it's kind of like a bye if you played on Thursday. Andy Reid, 8-3 all-time against his former assistants. He's 3-0 against his former assistants since going to Kansas City. Only 6-5 against the spread, so that kind of speaks to your guys' point, I suppose. Yeah. Philly is also playing its second straight consecutive road game. Last year, in the same situation, playing the back half of a second consecutive road game, they were 0-2. So a couple warning signs there.
Did Lane Johnson play those games?
Probably not, no. And those were divisional games. They played in a tough division. But going to Kansas City is no walk in the park. Maybe there's a little bit of a letdown factor for the Chiefs. That kind of concerns me as well. Coming off a big win, but they're going home. That place is going to be rocking. I think that this is a good spot for the Chiefs to kind of solidify themselves as a contender in this league. Because I tell you what, I'll look like a dummy if they come out and have a nice game this weekend too. Because I did not expect a whole lot out of the Chiefs, but man, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. You give Andy Reid an offensive mastermind, a couple weapons to play with, he's going to get creative, and we saw that Thursday.
I think I said this to you in the immediate aftermath of the Chiefs beating the Patriots, that Tyreek Hill, I have concerns about him. And I don't know if it's like a durability thing, that just a player of that kind of a gadget guy that you can, spread out wide, bring them in the backfield, do all these things with them. I just feel like at some point in time, I don't think it's going to be week 2, but over the long haul, I wonder if his effectiveness is going to diminish as he logs more playing time, whether he suffers an injury. I do have a durability concern. Maybe that's it's just me being off the rails here, but
probably.
I don't know. When you're relying so much on a guy like that, I have a little bit of a concern.
23 of 27, the Chiefs. Regular season games. They won 23 of their last.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
I agree with everything you said, Mike. I just think it's gonna be 5 points is a lot of points, and I think the Chiefs win.
Injury.
Yeah.
I think
well, that's the thing. You want to talk fantasy this week?
Yeah.
You want to talk fantasy DFS? Zach Ertz for the Eagles tight end, a big play for him this week.
Yeah, he's not Gronk, but I mean, we saw the impact that Berry had on Gronk, and you lose him, and obviously they've shown they love Ertz in that offense. Yeah. They go to him all the time.
Zacharias
just
Ertz.
Feed him, baby.
I tell you what, I mean, this game, obviously, if it's in the 3 games we're doing, it's going to be, we expect it to be a good game. There's a good slate this weekend, and this is one of the more I talk about it, it's like this is an exciting matchup.
You know what I'm going to incorporate from now until the end of the season is I'm going to grade my confidence for these picks. This one I put an F. I'm not confident in this pick at all.
I'm not even sure what that means.
But not an F, but yeah, I put F. I put F. I don't know what happened in this game.
Early season litmus test for these two teams that I think we're still trying to figure out what exactly they are.
I gave good reasons for both teams winning.
And early in the year when those are the games I look at as like the juicy matchups, the ones I look forward to. Like I can't maybe when week 10, week 11 rolls around, I'm gonna be very low on the Chiefs and very low on the Eagles. But for right now, both teams trending in the right direction. See what they got.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next devastating matchup.
Another good one here, especially. I mean, all 3 of these games, or at least the first 2 especially, are ones that maybe I didn't circle on the calendar when the season started, but after what I saw in week 1, I kind of am more into them. This one is also a 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. The Minnesota Vikings are going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. MyBookie.ag has the Steelers as 6-point favorites as it currently stands. Vikings really impressive on Monday night against the Saints. The Steelers, kind of an uneven matchup. A lot of penalties, not a lot of turnovers, but some crucial turnovers that kept them from covering against the Browns last weekend. But that game really wasn't ever in doubt for the Steelers. Like I said, Steelers 6-point favorites. This is their first home game of the season. Minnesota going on the road for the first time. Andre, why don't you start it?
I am B+ on this one. I think the Steelers cover this. I'm very confident about it. I like the Steelers. Listen, Ben Roethlisberger, I've always talked about how he's been struggling lately, and he has been. In the last 10 games, dating back to last year, including the playoffs, 14 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. But from those 10 games, 7 of them were on the road. It's unbelievable how much of a different Big Ben of a quarterback he is when Big Ben's at home versus the road. I didn't even know about this, but since 2014, Big Ben at home, 59 touchdowns, 16 picks. On the road, 25 touchdowns, 23 picks. It's unbelievable. He just loves to play in Pittsburgh. He'll be in Pittsburgh this week. And Sam Bradford, he looked great last week against the New Orleans Saints defense. But the Steelers pass rush, 32 sacks in the last 8 games. It's going to be a lot more difficult for Sam Bradford to get those looks against the Steelers' devastating pass rush.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that was basically, that's as good as you have ever seen Sam Bradford, and is probably as good as you will ever see.
He's going to tell his grandkids about that. Remember that time I played on Monday night?
Honestly, it was like, what are we watching here?
Even better than anything he did at Oklahoma.
It was like when you draft a run-of-the-mill quarterback in Madden and you still can throw all over the place because that's just the nature of the game. Like, he was making throws, and I'm like, where the hell is this coming from? But what I did like about the Vikings in that game, though, and this, they're obviously kind of one and the same, man. I love that offensive line. They look legit, paving lanes for Dalvin Cook as well. I think that their running game is going to be significantly better this year than it was last year with that whole committee that they had. So this is my long way of saying I like the Vikings. I'm going to take the points here, and I don't even consider taking them outright with the money line. I think it's fluctuated a little bit. There was one point it was plus 235, so you're betting 100 to win 235. So I like that. I think it's shifted in the other direction a little bit, but I don't know. I think that if you get a somewhat competent Sam Bradford, which I think is a realistic expectation, you're not going to get what you got in week 1. I think it's a decent matchup. And you spoke to the Steelers pass rush. I mean, we know, is Bud Dupree going to play this week? He's inactive week 1. Is he coming back? I think
it sounds like he's going to try to.
We saw the impact that he had when he came back last year.
7 sacks last week, even without Bud Dupree.
I agree, but I think a lot of that too was you're dealing with the Browns' offensive line.
But that's the part that's good. You were talking about the Browns' offensive line before and how much they've improved.
But I like the Vikings. After seeing the Vikings' offensive line, I like them even better than the Browns' offensive line. Also, you're dealing with. I mean, I was going up against a rookie quarterback last week.
Sorry, that was rude.
No, we were. That's like I like the Browns this year because of that offensive line. So I disagree. Yeah.
I also don't think Antonio Brown's going to go off for the game that he had last week. Xavier Rhodes, a legit cornerback. He's a top 10 cornerback in the NFL. Big, physical. If you can slow him down to some extent, Le'Veon Bell's still getting his feet under him. I think he'll be more involved, obviously, this week, but I don't know. I think they could slow him down offensively.
Sure, I'm taking the Steelers too. I have written down here the home road splits for Big Ben is huge for me. No, it's just I think it's a focal point. Pittsburgh, he was banged up last year. They went 5-1 when he was 5-1 at home when Roethlisberger played. 20-5 touchdown interception ratio kind of speaks to what you're saying. 102.8 passer rating. Detroit does have Detroit. Jeez, we're all over the place. Pittsburgh. Oh, I saw the DE for defensive end. Pittsburgh. They do have this. You talk about the injury issues, and they were kind of banged up last week. Steven Tuitt with the bicep injury.
Got a big contract extension.
J.J. Wilcox concussed himself spearing another guy, which is kind of a little bit of a football karma. You touched on Bud Dupree, but they got great games out of. T.J. Watt was great.
I like him.
You want to talk about the Steelers spearing? Other than that personal foul he picks up for just a senseless dive at Kaiser, gets up, picks off the pass on the next play. Really kind of impressive stuff. Anthony Chiquillo, a guy who's kind of come out of nowhere to have been good.
Listening to that show.
I'm just saying.
You guys are such hypocrites.
No. The point is that, yes, they have injuries, but I think that this is a deep defense that, you get Minnesota out of its comfort zone. I think it's a different story going to Pittsburgh. That Pittsburgh defense is really it's one of those things where everybody looks at the offense and kind of overlooks that defense. I think Joe Hayden, you get him another week to kind of catch his, get acclimated to a new system. Le'Veon Bell, that was a disappointment, sure. I think you're going to have a big week out of Le'Veon Bell this week. You look at, Pittsburgh had the third most penalty yards last week. They had 13 penalties for 144 yards. First of all, it's insane that there was two other teams with more penalty yards at 144 yards. But, I think a lot of that's playing on the road. Now you go home, you kind of clean it up a little bit, maybe not spear guys in the head at different points, but on offense, kind of get away from those early first and second down penalties that are putting you in bad spots. Maybe manage the game a little bit better, and Le'Veon Bell becomes more of a focal point in that offense. So I think I'm expecting a big bounce back week from him. I think you can finally get him going. It's just... the Vikings looked nice, sure, but again,
the Vikings are.
I need to see it against a team.
9-7 team.
Yeah, it's just. We want to talk about. I thought we were talking in the content center earlier about how. I think the bigger overreaction than in week one, or there might not be a bigger overreaction in week one than saying Minnesota's offense is good all of a sudden. It looked good, sure. I need to see it against a team that's not the Saints in an arena stadium that's not the Vikings' home stadium. So if they can go on the road and play well at Pittsburgh, I'd be a believer. I'm just not banking on it happening this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think that offense is legit, but I think it could be sneaky underrated because I think their receivers are pretty underrated.
They do. They have very
Adam
good.
Thielen, he's legit. I mean, you go back and look at his efficiency stats from last year. He's the most efficient wide receiver since 1471. It's a very
Renaissance era football. Charlemagne at quarterback.
So I do think there's potential there. They're not going to be as good as they were in week one, but I think there's some potential on that side of the ball.
Sunday night, this is the big one.
Charlemagne in the Renaissance. He was way before. He was in the 8th, 9th century.
Charlemagne, my God.
Dated myself there.
That's not how the phrase works either. But Sunday night.
Rough moment there. That's what you call a rough moment.
NFC Championship rematch. Green Bay Packers, fresh off a week one dismantling of the Seattle Seahawks, go to the Mercedes-Benz
opening night.
Dome? Is it still a stadium?
The Dome is in New Orleans.
Yeah,
Superdome.
Yeah, I know, but it was like it used to be the Georgia Dome, so I wasn't sure if they called it the Mercedes-Benz.
No, but this one has like a hole in the roof.
I know, yeah. So
it looks like a bird's nest too, which I like because a falcon is a bird.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm finding it harder and harder to get impressed by these stadiums. Though.
Yeah, well,
they just keep upping the ante on all the electronic devices and
it's like
video boards. And
people were saying that this one just looks like
this
one just looks like Minnesota, but with like a wraparound video board that goes all the way around. Pretty impressive.
Cool. It's cool, but it might be overwhelming.
Sure. Yeah. Falcons 2.5-point favorites though Sunday night. Falcons escaped by the hair of their chinny chin chins or whatever the saying is. I'm getting my own sayings mixed up. Jesus
cliches
Christ.
and the like.
Yeah, this is a tough.
I love a good
struggle.
Idiom.
Yeah, the idiom problems. So anyway, Falcons escaped week 1. I kind of, not to pat myself on the back, but I saw that as a tough little matchup for the Falcons last week, going into Chicago. Chicago had a chance to win that game late.
I like Chicago.
Couldn't catch a ball at the goal line, Jordan Howard. No. So Atlanta escapes that. I think a little bit different story coming home. Let me feel much more comfortable. Obviously, that place is going to be jacked up, assuming it's not overtaken by Packers fans. It is a really interesting matchup. The Falcons obviously curb stomped the Packers last year in the NFC Championship game, but these two teams played earlier in the season, 1-point game. I think it was Week 8, October 30th, thereabouts. So these teams have some history at the artist formerly known as the Georgia Dome. So 2.5 points, Falcons favored according to mybookie.ag. Ricky, why don't you kick it off?
I like the Falcons in this one, and I think this is where you're going to see that speed on defense come into play. I mean, we spoke ad nauseum about how much speed is on both sides of the ball, really, for the Falcons going into the season. And I just think their ability to, close on somebody like Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb, Ty Montgomery, when you get these guys, you dunk it off to them, try to get them in space, get some yards after the catch, which we saw that a lot going up against the Seahawks. I think that's where the speed of Atlanta can benefit them in the situation. Admittedly, they do have a tendency to sometimes seem like they're running around like their hair's on fire. I think that's kind of the trap that they got in with the Bears. When you have speed going up against speed, which Tariq Cohen kind of came out of nowhere and started making plays, but I think this is where the Falcons defense has the ability to match up with Green Bay offensively, and like you said, that place is going to be jacked up, so I put a lot of stock into the home field advantage in this one. I might have a different opinion if this is at Lambeau, but I like the Falcons. I don't think it's going to be that smoke show that you saw in the NFC Championship, but I like the Falcons in this one.
I don't see anything that's changed from NFC Championship till today on the Packers' defensive side of the ball. Maybe they're a little bit better on the secondary, but still, you're dealing with Julio Jones.
So that would be something that has changed.
Yeah, but you're still dealing with Julio Jones. You're still dealing with Matt Ryan. You're still dealing with the two-headed running back attack that's very difficult to contain. I like the addition of Martellus Bennett for Aaron Rodgers. I think it's a great threat, and I think he'll have some success in this game. I don't think they'll go down 31-0 at halftime like they did at the NFC Championship. But again, they were down 31-0 at halftime in the NFC Championship. It's a lot of points. It shows me that one team is better than the other when there's only a minimal number of changes since then. And that the October 30 game you were talking about, the Falcons won that game, 33-32, and that was before they had really hit their stride. They won that game, and I think they'll win this one too.
They won that game.
It's only a 2.5-point spread.
They won that game because
Falcons are jacked up in their home stadium. Just tell me, okay, maybe you can explain to me, how are they going to stop Julio Jones?
How are they going to stop Julio Jones? I don't think it's necessarily, you're not going to stop Julio Jones. Nobody stops Julio Jones. The Patriots couldn't stop Julio Jones. But the fact is, this is a different Packers team. That's like, you're just not paying attention if you think that this is if nothing has changed. Since you want to know what's changed? You want to know what's changed? The Packers just cut Ladarius Gunter, who was their #1 cornerback going into the NFC Championship game. That's what's changed. Their secondary actually has healthy bodies. That's what's changed. It's just asinine for you to sit here and say that nothing has changed.
I didn't say
for the
nothing.
Packers.
I said not much has changed.
Yo, now you're changing your story. You said no. What did he say? What did he say? You look at it. I can't see what's just changed.
I've even written here, I'm not sure the Packers defense has improved that much.
It's semantics. I think it has improved, and I'm not going to overreact to 1 week against a Steelers team or Seahawks team that can't block anybody. But I think where the Packers are going to be able to kind of look better on defense isn't necessarily in the secondary. It's what they do up front. They got pressure on Russell Wilson last week, and sure, the Seahawks can't block anybody. But I went back and I looked at the tape. Twice last week, Matt Ryan was sacked. Another time, roughed the passer by who was it? Why can't I think of his name? I think I wrote it down here. Keem Hicks. Excuse me, I always get mixed. Keem Hicks, former Patriots, great. Sacked twice. You know where the pressure came? Both times up the middle. They kind of screwed with it, stunted every once in a while. They wore out Wes Schweitzer, one of the Falcons guards. If Schweitzer's on the field, Mike Daniels is going to find him. And Mike Daniels played like a man possessed on Sunday against Seattle. The Packers are at their best when they're generating that pressure up the middle. Dom Capers, I give that guy a lot of grief. And, you kind of look at the NFC Championship, he did not adjust quick enough, and that was a big reason for why it turned into a smoke show that quickly. But he did a nice job last week of kind of moving things around and getting Mike Daniels in one-on-ones. And even if Mike Daniels isn't on one-on-one, the Packers are aggressive enough with their blitzes. They're going to put pressure on Matt Ryan, and I think that's the only chance that they have of kind of slowing down Julio Jones. Julio Jones is going to have a big game no matter what. It doesn't matter if the Packers had Deion Sanders in his prime out on the corner. Julio Jones finds a way to get his touches, but I think the Packers, you just
have so many threats. Green Bay does. It's not just Julio Jones. You had Hooper had 2 huge catches last
Hooper
week.
had 2 huge catches because he was standing in the middle of the sea being like, hello, I'm open.
Because that's all Julio Jones.
That's not all Julio Jones. That's the Bears for getting the big white guy in the middle of the field. Give me a break.
They fly 5 receivers out. Everyone focuses on Julio Jones.
He was standing in the middle of the field wide open.
All right.
That's not because Julio Jones doesn't allow for Austin Hooper.
Julio Jones gets all the attention.
All right, fine.
He's not in the lineup.
So let's say that the Falcons score 40 points. Who's to say the Packers aren't going to score 42? Because the Packers have a good offense too.
Did you know what happened last year? Defense on their Falcons defense?
Oh my God. You know what happened last year? The Packers went in there week 8. They didn't have Randall Cobb. You know what Randall Cobb did in week 1? 9 catches, 13 targets, 85 yards against a better secondary. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Going into the
NFC
NFC Championship. Devontae Adams, he sprained his ankle the week before again that Dallas game. Remember that? Jordy Nelson was like a game time decision. All signs pointed to him not playing with a cracked rib. So he's out there with a cracked rib. Devontae Adams out there with a broken ankle, basically. They haven't had a full complement. They are so much healthier going into this game. I'm just saying, to sit here, it sounds like you think they're going to get blown out. I think
they'll win by 2 touchdowns.
And also, the Packers, like I said, they just cut the cornerback 1 from the NFC Championship game. They cut Ricky Jean-Francois, a guy that they loved for the last couple of years. They finally got him in here, and they cut him after 1 week. It just tells you how much confidence they have in the guys they have in there right now. What are you going to say?
What are your thoughts on the Packers' offensive line? I didn't think they were great.
I
think they've gotten better since this is an area I think they've improved since last year, but I didn't think they were great.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I meant to mention. If Bulaga doesn't play, then it's an issue because I think I forget who they had, the guy in the right tackle who he just kind of looked clueless at times.
Yeah,
that's against a good defense as well. And sure, the Falcons have a chance to get after it. They can pin their ears back, but. Again,
I also like the Packers. Really, they controlled the clock in that game.
Yeah,
it was like 40 minutes to 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm the Falcons, their running game is so much better than the Seahawks.
Yeah,
so I think their ability to control the clock will be big in this one.
One thing I
did keep Green Bay off the field.
The Falcons can eat the clock too.
That's what I say.
One thing I was impressed though. The Packers have had issues tackling over the last few years. They tackled very well. On Sunday at Lambeau. Sure, it was Eddie Lacy or whatever. But like I said, I went back and watched a lot of it this morning. And I was like, they're at their worst when they're just missed arm tackling.
I also think Russell Wilson played like crap in that game.
Yeah.
I think he put
but like
a lot of that's on the offensive line. I agree, but I also
Bears
think he
didn't
put himself in some bad spots.
Everybody's talking about how this is going to be a Super Bowl hangover for the Falcons. The Falcons played like a team that looked primed for a Super Bowl hangover in Week 1. They didn't look good.
Green Bay opened up Minnesota Stadium last year.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't that good.
Yeah.
I think it's a similar thing. Look, Packers are a second half team. It's always been that way. They're always a second half team.
I also one last thing. I mean, we're spending way too much time on this, but one thing I do want to point out that everybody talks about how much of a blowout that game was. That game, the Falcons much more talented in that game, and we talked about the injuries. The Packers killed themselves in that game. People forget Mason Crosby misses a 41-yard field goal early in that game. The Packers finally get some offensive momentum going down the field. Second quarter, Aaron Ripkowski fumbles at the 11-yard line, and then Rodgers just throws one up on 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 21 with 1:50 left to go in the quarter. Atlanta picks it off at its own 31 with 1:50 left, goes down the field, scores with 3 seconds left in the half, 24-0 at halftime, it's over.
But then they scored another 31.
Right.
I don't see.
I think it's
Green Bay limits the turnovers. They're going to be in this game.
It's big for Atlanta to escape that week one.
It was 31-0. They got killed. What are you talking about? Anyway, let's move on.
I guess I could. My whole point here could have been that the Week 8 game, I think, was a lot closer to what we'll see than the NFC Championship.
Okay.
If the Falcons had blown that game, though, so going back to the Super Bowl, and then you come up the following season, Week 1, and blow a game like that to the Bears, that would have been ugly.
The Packers aren't going to be out of this one, that's for sure.
That would have been a bad look for them.
Tariq Cohen, Jordan Howard, big game. Maybe Montgomery.
All right, let's move on to our bet slips.
Yeah, the Packers looked okay.
Yeah.
Bet slips. Who wants to start? I don't really care which one you get.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll be very quick. All right, my $100 bet slip. My first one is the hit him in the mouth parlay. It is a straight up parlay. The hit him in the mouth parlay. I call it the hit him in the mouth parlay because these 4 teams all have pass rushers that hit quarterbacks in the mouth very ferociously, and they're going up against quarterbacks who like to get hit. Pittsburgh, Arizona, Carolina, and Houston. Houston's going up against Andy Dalton. Carolina is going up against what's it called?
The Bills.
The Bills. Tyrod Taylor sacked more than any other quarterback last year. Arizona going up against the Colts. Who knows who's going to start for them? Plus, their offensive line stinks.
The Cardinals looked good last week, though, so that's a good point.
But their pass rush is good. They're playing a really bad team, and I'm taking them straight up against probably the worst team in the NFL, in my opinion. Okay, anyway. Next one I have is a Super Bowl quarterback teaser, 40 to win 94. These are all quarterbacks that have been in Super Bowls. Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, and Joey Flacco. I have trust in them. I'm taking them 4-team teaser. And then the Bay Area slam dunk, 49ers plus 19.5. The Seahawks, I don't even think they could score 19.5 points in the game, let alone cover a 19.5 point spread. So that's where the 49ers are playing. The Raiders -7 against the Jets. I think that's a really good one. And the Patriots, what's the connection to Bay Area there? Their quarterback is from the Bay Area. -0.5 against the Saints. 30 to win 45. That's my bet slip.
All right.
That was good. That
You
was
want to
90
go, Mike?
seconds.
You want
You
me
guys
to
can
go?
do that too.
Sure, I'll go.
ahead.
I just want to point out, I was the only one who hit on one of mine last week on the bet slip.
Okay.
I'm going parlay heavy this week. Actually, it is all parlays. I'm starting with the Desperation Moneyline Parlay. Let's see here. Sorry. Since 1990, only 12% of teams, 0-2 teams have made the playoffs. All of these teams lost last week, and they're going to have a little bit of urgency, and I think they're just better than the teams that they're playing. Seattle -860 on the money line, New England -290 on the money line, and Tennessee -135 going to Jacksonville, beating the Jaguars. I'm still not sold on the Jags. I think the Titans are better than they showed last week. That was a tough matchup against Oakland. I'm not crazy about having that Tennessee game in it, but you got to get a little value somehow. Toyed with the idea of the Giants as well on Monday night, but I'm staying away from the Giants for as long as I can. Let's go with the AFC East parlay, at least everybody but the Jets. This is against the spread. I like Buffalo to cover at Carolina. I like what the Bills are doing. More on that in a little bit. Patriots, as long as not everybody is hurt, I like them over the Saints. And Miami on the road at the Chargers, the well-rested team, 4.5 points. That's 20 to win, 132-73. And then my fade the public over/under parlay. This one's a big one.
Real quick on this. Don't go on.
Buffalo, Carolina under 43. Arizona, Indiana over 40. Indiana,
Public can read
44.
it. Give us one game.
The Hoosiers. Yeah.
What do you like most in this?
Just stalling. What is it? 2-9 through the first 11 games. The under was last week. I'm not sure what it finished at, but the under had a big week. So 4 out of 5 of those, or 5 out of 6 of them, are unders. I don't know. Just trying to fade the public.
I'm curious.
30 to win.
Packers Falcons under 53.5. What's your reasoning on that? I'm just curious.
It's literally, there is no reasoning for anything other than I'm just fading the public on this one. Oh, okay. And that one I could see. I could see that one just being. I could see that being 27-26, getting right under 24-21.
There are a lot of things that in recent history suggest that's the over, but I agree with you that there's a sneaky weird element to it where
I think both defenses,
because everybody's hammering the over for so many reasons.
Yeah, exactly. The number's going to be inflated because they know that's people are going to do.
Hence the name, the fade the public over under.
Ricky Doobs.
All right, my bet slip.
Love this name.
I'll wrap things up with the old Limbo Party. And this is the Limbo Party because I like it to go under on all 3 of these games. And the biggest common theme of this whole thing is a lot of shaky offenses. I like under 42 for the 49ers and Seahawks. We already talked about the Seahawks problems. 49ers, they are what they are. Scored 3 points last week. I don't think anybody's really expecting anything from them this year. The Rams, love the Rams this year, but let's face it, they're going to regress a little bit. Last week was a big product of them facing the Colts. So I go back to the Colts over here, under 44 versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they stink. I think they're overrated going into this year. No, I think he looked every bit of his age, Carson Palmer. Secondly, the don't give in parlay, and this was, Mike, I think you had a few of these, couple of these games on there. And it is the same idea. Don't overreact to week one on these two teams. The Titans and the Patriots. I thought the Titans would have, a little bit of a feeling on stage against the Raiders. I like them to come back this week and face the Jaguars. Don't overvalue the Jaguars. Patriots -7. They're going to blow the Saints' doors off. I'm telling you right now. I love that. $50 to win, 140 at 91. Going with the spreads on those two games. All lines, of course, courtesy of my bookie. And finally, the West Coast 6-point teaser. This is just a whole bunch of games taking place in the West Coast, which is the theme is similar to a theme that you had. And mainly with the Jets and the Niners, it's just a lot of points right here. When you get in the teaser as well. The Dolphins, I like the Chargers, but I also think that the Dolphins can put up a fight in that game. If you want to slap on a couple extra points, I'm down with that. And then the Broncos, I think they might beat the Cowboys outright. Wow. So the fact that throw them in there and give me an 8-point differential, cool. Let's do it. Put down 30 to win 7.
Well, who's good at the Limbo Party? Coco Cox, her coworker, she used to do that very well.
She's big limbo?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Anyway.
It's a skill that's tough to master.
You're really pretty good at it too.
I've fallen on my back at many a limbo. No. But that's neither here nor there.
The Cowboys are not going to lose to the Broncos. So.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
The Cowboys can eat the clock up.
It's good value, though.
I think it's good value, and I just think a lot of what we saw last week was the Giants. I'm staying away from them offensively. I just that offense stinks.
Yeah, especially if Odell Beckham can't come back.
Yeah.
You got an extra day.
All right, let's cue the mariachi music.
Yep, show and tell.
Let's do it. Ricky, you want to start?
All right, yeah. Let me go under the hood here.
Ooh.
Pull out the Associated Press style book, or in other words, the AP style book. And speaking of AP, you were very high on Adrian Peterson going into this season. And I will say that is already becoming an unmitigated disaster. I think he is probably the worst running back on that roster. I think worst fit. I mean, it was pretty clear when the Saints were going up against the Vikings, every time they put him in, they gave him the football. It's just there was nothing to that play calling. You couldn't do play action. He's basically a 2-down running back.
The versatility.
He can't catch the ball out of the backfield, which I think is really what the Saints need from a running back. Kamara is pretty legit. I think, he's going to be the guy that puts up more of a production than Peterson this year. So really, that whole thing on the sideline I think was a little blown out of proportion. I think that was cameras maybe catching him at just a weird angle or whatever. I don't think there's too much beef yet. But I just think that
tough optics.
Yeah, it was bad optics. But I just think that he's just going to be very unproductive as a member of the New Orleans Saints. So the AP style book for AP's lackluster
He only got
season,
6 carries. He only got 6 carries. He's going to be fine. Saints are going to be fine.
You think he's going to get more than that going forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
think that's what you're going to get from him.
Future Hall of Famer. And you know who else is a future Hall of Famer? Is Phillip Rivers. And I love what I saw from the San Diego Chargers. You look at losers in the week.
Is that why you're holding a phone charger?
That's why I'm holding a phone charger.
Right.
This is an iPhone charger.
An eye shot of the viewers at home.
San Diego Chargers, I still believe in them. Second half of that game.
Just tell. Let
me tell you. Second half of that game, that pass rush became lethal. Joey Bosa, everybody was putting a lot of pressure on Trevor Siemian. I have a lot of belief in the Chargers. What they were in the second half of that Monday Night Football game is what they are. That's a good team. That first half, they allowed the C.J. Anderson and the running game to get a lot of plays. At one point in that Chargers-Broncos game, the Broncos ran 56 plays. The Chargers had only ran 29. That's almost twice as many plays. The Broncos were eating up the clock. Once the ball was in Phillip Rivers' hands, though, they were exploiting the Broncos' D, and the Broncos have a pretty good D. So I like the Chargers still going for their own one. Don't overreact. This is week one's lesson, right? Don't overreact. You're overreacting to Adrian Peterson's poor performance.
No,
and I'm not going to overreact to the Chargers' first half.
All right.
You're overreacting to the Adrian Peterson signing in general.
No, I just think he's a future Hall of Famer, and there's nothing.
Who the hell cares? You say this week after week. He's a future Hall of Famer. There's a lot of future Hall of Famers that at the end of their career suck ass.
Whoa! His future Hall of Famer is gonna fall off his chair right now.
This thing is a mess. We got a mess over here.
You got there. You got food.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Nuts.
Anyway, one of my favorite scenes in television history is
Sergio Dip.
Yeah, no, Sergio Dip. This is related to Sergio Dip in a way. Favorite scenes in television history: Hard Knocks, whatever year it was, the New York Jets. Rex Ryan laying into his team, telling them how bad they stunk, how they were acting like a bunch of I can't mention it, slap something or others, going off on him. He gets slap Richards, slap Rickies. So he gets to the end of the speech. He goes, "All right, that's it. Let's go eat a goddamn snack." So I got a snack for Rex Ryan because Rex Ryan needs a little bit of a snack right about now. This is edamame. I don't know if you'd be very interested in this, but I was
Rye roasted edamame.
Yeah, this is
actually really
it is good. So. First week since Rex Ryan's gone, the Bills came out and actually looked pretty good. Sure, it was against the Jets, whatever. But you look at the quotes after the game. Richie Incognito played for Rex Ryan last year. It was really special. It was kind of a whole different energy. Everyone's kind of just done a good job of just buying in. Coach has been preaching to worry about the 53 guys in this room and coaching staff. We can't control what's outside. What did Rex Ryan love to do? Talk about anybody but his own team, or just talk about how awesome things are. Sean McCoy. Sean McDermott's a leader. A lot of coaches can be great coaches, but some of them lack leadership. Hey, that's a little bit of a shot. I don't care what anybody says. I think the best thing he brings is his leadership. We know he followed him, so it's cool to see him get his first win. That was not good. The Bills, the Rex Ryan thing, not good. I think that kind of looks even worse now in hindsight after we saw week 1. And then Monday Night Football, Rex Ryan did the late game, and he was terrible. He stunk. He was awful. Everybody made fun of him. A lot of foot talk, a lot of feet talk.
You couldn't even get to the opening segment without veering off the screen. You was all over the place.
You have Bills +7 over the Panthers.
Yeah.
I just can't.
I like what Sean
Tyrod Taylor's going to get sacked so many times. That's my bold prediction. The Panthers got 8 sacks this week.
Here's the other thing.
8 sacks.
You were really high on Cam Newton last week, and he kind of looked like not very good. So
I wasn't high on him. I said he's playing the 49ers and will get the win, and they covered. What was I wrong about?
Smoking all
I also the Steelers get 6 sacks and they got 7. And
this is why I'm going back and transcribing things that you say, because
go ahead.
Your story changes.
Do it. My story does not change.
All right.
My story does not change.
Go check out mybookie.ag. Promo code PTS as in points. Sign up, get a bonus as well. Tell them we sent you. Big ups to them. Appreciate all the help that they've given us, and some good spreads this week. This too. This is gonna be a fun week.
I will say, and then join us on NESN.com on Thursday for the complete picks.
Right.
Yes.
One by one. That's what the records indicate at the beginning. In case you were curious.
Why there is only the math.
As
the math does
games,
work out. Yeah.
So that's where we make we make really fools out of ourselves, or show off.
Yeah, and ignore our super contest picks, whatever you do.
Yeah,
we did not do well this week.
No. But you know what? It's still a learning stage. So
anyway, that's it. See you again next week. Thanks for joining us. It's been fun. It's been real. Talk to you next week.
The double.
Mike's not going to do it. One of us has to.